Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Beyond the Devastation, episode 15 already. I'm your host, Pastor John Perez, and John Perez for some, or Pastor John, just John. But we are here today, episode 15. We are excited about this opportunity to talk to you about something called Beyond the Bankruptcy. We're going to talk to you a few minutes about it. We hope that you'll share this with your friends. I got some information for you. How to go beyond the FICO score. How to go beyond bankruptcy. How to come out on the other side. If you stay tuned, I'll give you some information that can help you change the way you do what you're about to do. If you haven't done it already, hold on. If you have, how you can make it to the other side. Again, please, I ask you to subscribe. We are on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Devastation. We are also, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So please, I ask you to go join and listen to our other 14 episodes that we've done. But today, specifically, we're going to talk to you about Beyond Bankruptcy. So for me, this has been a passion of mine to even start this podcast and have an opportunity to talk to millions of people across the world about something that I believe people are not wanting to talk about. And that's mental wellness. I call it mental wealth, because if your mind is right, you have wealth. And, you know, we've called it mental illness, all these other names. I'm changing it. Mental wealth is my new name that I want to use, because if you have wealth in your mind, you can do a lot of things. If your head's on right, you can make it. But today, I wanted to talk to you about something that is near and dear to me, and it's about beyond the bankruptcy. How in the world do I make it beyond bankruptcy? Today, the devastation is during the pandemic. I lost my job. I lost my home. I'm losing my car. I don't have a job. I might have to, or I am thinking about bankruptcy. Well, there are several code names that you hear out there for bankruptcy, right? One is Chapter 7. That's basically where you're liquidating assets. Chapter 13, which they call the wage earner bankruptcy, right? Where you're taking a portion of your earnings and you're paying the debtors or the people on so many cents on the dollar. Then you hear it's Chapter 11, which you hear a lot of companies go through. But I found out just today that if you're too big to be in Chapter 13, you could find yourself in Chapter 11. So if I'm choosing to go this route of bankruptcy, what are some of the challenges that I might have to look at? Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience that, let me see, Chapter 7, yep, check. Chapter 13, tried it, didn't work for me, right? Chapter 7, we and my first wife and I had to file Chapter 7. We were in debt up to our ears. We had every single credit card there even could be. And you know what? We lost our shirt. We couldn't pay it back. So I fought it and I fought it. I was always taught to pay back your debt, you know, whatever bills you created, to pay it back. I couldn't pay it back. So we went to have to find somebody who specializes in doing bankruptcies. So we owned a house at the time. We didn't want to lose the house. So we had to protect the house in the bankruptcy. And we were going to continue to pay our mortgage, right? And but it's not cheap to do this. It's not cheap to file bankruptcy. So what I found was that, you know, I called an attorney today and just asked him, so what in the world does it cost to go bankrupt? He said, well, if you're going Chapter 7, he said that could go up to like $3,500 plus filing fees. Now you see him online for $9.99 or $4.95. Listen, don't believe it. Find yourself a reputable attorney who does this, and ask for referrals from your friends or family that know somebody, because that's where you're better off. A Chapter 13, he said, could cost up to $7,500. Unbelievable. Then Chapter 11, he said, look, if you got to go that big, you're looking at double digits. He couldn't even tell me how much it cost. So I can tell you from experience that, look, a Chapter 7, and I was a banker for a long time. A chapter, if you decide to go bankrupt, let me just give you some of the things that you're going to have to look at as far as your credit is concerned. One, it stays on your credit report for 9 years, 9 months. Don't ask me why they came up with that. Some people say 10 years. I remember getting a workshop with a credit bureau company. They said 9 years, 9 months. How long did judgment stay on your credit report? 9 years, 9 months. How do I know? Because I've had all of them. 9 years, 9 months. To the day they fell off. So if I'm going to go bankrupt, that means my credit, whatever credit I had, is shot. Right? So I get a lot of questions sometimes saying, well, when can I get another credit card? Really? You just burned every creditor for $100,000. Now you're worried about getting another credit card? Well, I can't rent a car. Well, your life is not going to be the same as it used to be. You might want to keep a debit card. And whatever cash is in there, that's what you use. I would not recommend getting credit tomorrow. That's me personally. So the second part is, I heard, well, I want to buy a house. Does this stop me from buying a house? Well, it does for 4 years. At a minimum, 4 years for a conventional loan. If you want to get an FHA or a VA or a government-sponsored loan, as little as 3 years. Here's the kick. You've got to repair your credit to get there. So how do you get beyond the bankruptcy? If you've done Chapter 7, you wiped out all your debt, and you've got zero debt, and maybe just getting, if you're renting. But let me tell you this. If you're going to rent, people who you're going to rent from are checking your credit these days. You've got to be able to explain why you had to do this. Now, I know times are tough, but you got to be able to explain why you had to file bankruptcy. And I've had to do that. So I'm just trying to give you some words of wisdom to help you, because I didn't know everything. I had to get a lot of help at that time. So you're filing bankruptcy. You've chosen Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. And now you're trying to figure out, how am I going to get out of this all? It takes a lot of time. Look, I've talked to people to do credit repair. Look, that's a lot of it. I hate to tell you, it's just, I feel, my own personal opinion, it's smoke and mirrors, right? I did my own, and I know it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to do. Look, I remember what my credit scores were before 2010. They were horrible. Something 4s, 5s, right? Credit scores that low, you don't even listen. They won't even let you borrow a loaf of bread because it ain't happening. But it took a lot of effort on my part to get it all done. Now, after I filed bankruptcy and gone through a divorce, now you take those two together. Now add this. Add a foreclosure to all of that mess. So I can honestly say, and I'm not proud of it, that I had one house that was foreclosed on. Same house twice. Twice I was foreclosed on the same house. We lost the house the first time. My then father-in-law went to, God bless his heart, we went to the courthouse steps and we were able to buy the house back. Saved it from losing it to auction, right? Bought the house back. They were able to get a mortgage and we got a loan. Then things went south again, and literally in 2007, the bank had filed, different bank, filed foreclosure proceedings. We had to sell the house as part of the divorce. But literally, same house, 2 foreclosure filings, personal bankruptcy, and a credit score that, listen, they wouldn't even lend me, I tell you right now, they wouldn't even lend me a loaf of bread because it wasn't going to happen. So how did I get out of this devastation? First, I had to change my spending habits because I couldn't spend because I didn't have anything to spend it on. 2, I couldn't buy a new car every 3 years, 4 years. I had to drive whatever I had to drive. 3, I had to live within my means. Live within my means. I had a good job, making a lot of money. But one too many trips, and I feel like Mickey Mouse got most of my money during my first marriage. I'll never do that again. So I had to stop going on these extravagant vacations. I couldn't afford it. And I had to live literally. Look, I remember when I got divorced, paying child support, bad credit. By the grace of God, I was able to get an apartment. 2, as a matter of fact. And 3, excuse me. And I was able to make it out. But I had to pay my rent on time. Because that was the only credit I had. I had to pay Central Hudson and the cable bill on time. Because that was the only credit I had. And it was hard. Because I remember during that time, look, I barely had enough money to eat. And I was spending $500 a month just to commute into the city. I remember getting handouts from people at church just to get food on my table. Matter of fact, I still have today some of the dishes that I got from when I was single, and it was donated to me by the church because that's all I had. But bankruptcy played a huge part of my problems during my late 30s, early 40s, and into my 50s. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to be 58. It took me a long time to fix this nightmare. But I want to share my story because I hope I can help you. That look, just because you went bankrupt and you knocked out all your debt doesn't mean that it's over. It's not over. Now you've got to rebuild. Right? And you've heard the story of 45. He goes bankrupt and he makes it out. Well, he's got enough money hidden someplace where he can get away with do what he's got to do because he's a smart guy and was able to put money away. Right? And people trusted him and gave him more money. We're not 45. So we got to figure this out. So the best way to figure it out is now, what's your plan to exit your bankruptcy? How am I going to rebuild? I just heard and did some research. It says that if I ever want to buy a house, it's going to take me 3 years. And I still am going to pay higher rates, right? Now, I'll give you this. The other question I've had, can I buy a car after I've gone bankrupt? Yeah, you can try, but I can tell you this, that you're going to pay somewhere north of 21% on a car loan. Now, there are companies out there that'll do it. Same day approval. You've seen the signs. Now, in New York, the usury rate or the most you can charge somebody in New York is 24.999. Now, I started my banking career at Household Finance. We charged you 24.99. Then I went to New Jersey and it was 29.99. What are some of these car dealers doing? Charging you the max because you need a car. Because your shopping payment and you're back into the same hole that you're in. So, newsflash. I was literally at a dealer this morning getting my oil change. So I asked a guy who I've known for 25 years. I said, so what are they doing on cars since you can't get inventory? He said, well, dealers are charging anywhere above what's on the sticker, $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 above, depending on the car. Now, let me just give you a free piece of advice. If you don't need to buy a new car, don't buy one. If you don't need to buy a used car, don't buy one. Why? Because the dealers are, I don't know, my friends are going to kill me for this. The dealers are making a mint right now. Don't cry for the dealer. He's making out okay. Why? Because they're making more money now than they've ever made. I remember it was in the car business in the 80s. It's the wild, wild west. So you walk in there, fresh out of bankruptcy, paying $5,000 more for a new car, charge 25%. 3 years from now, you want to buy a new car. You're not. Why? All that interest that you've paid is killing you. all the depreciation never caught up to all the money you paid over. So now you've gone bankrupt. You've gotten a car. You're paying 25%. You paid $5,000 over what's on the window. And now the market corrects itself. And your car's worth less than what you owe. We call that in the trade, you're upside down in your trade. So now you've started the process all over again. So now what's going to happen? If you can't get rid of the car goes bad, guess what they do? The other part of Beyond the Devastation. Now you get repossessed. So now you got a repossession, a bankruptcy, no credit, and then you go to those places now they call buy here, pay here, where the dealer is actually lending you the money and you buy the car there and you pay the guy there. Look, I'm trying to help somebody out today because I've been in the business, banking and also automotive, for a good portion of my life, almost 25 years. I'm trying to save you the devastation of losing your credit. Because if you've never pulled your credit report, face the boogeyman and pull your credit report. Because you're going to see things on there that you probably didn't know. If you and your dad have the same name, you might have dad's credit on there. Might be jacking you up. You don't know. Somebody's stolen your identity. You don't know because you don't want to face the song of going to freecreditreport.com and getting your credit report. Look, beyond the devastation, there's hope. There's hope if you take the steps to fix. So I filed bankruptcy. I'm rebuilding myself. I'm putting money in a savings account for a rainy day. I'm using a debit card because I don't have any other means. I can't rent a car. Yes, you can rent a car. As long as you got enough money on that debit card, you could rent a car. Listen to Dave Ramsey. Recommended. It's all he uses. Well, Dave Ramsey's got a lot of money. Dave Ramsey didn't always have a lot of money. But Dave Ramsey used principles to keep himself sane. We're not. Recommend going to Dave Ramsey. Highly recommended. Change your life. He's not paying me to give him a plug, but I recommend you go to Dave Ramsey because I believe that once you've gone through this, you need some place to start. It's worth the investment. So the other part is how do I fix my credit after I've gone through all of these things? Foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy, judgments, medical liens. How do I fix it? Well, you're never going to fix it unless you pick up the phone and go to the computer and get your credit report. Look, I was fortunate because I was in the business and I understood some stuff. But once I pulled it and saw who was on there, I'll give you an example. I had a creditor that was on there for a long time, and it was nearly close to the 9 years, 9 months. And I explained to them my story. I said, look, I'm trying to rebuild my life. You've had this thing on there for so long. Can you please remove it now early? And they did. Now, there was a caveat. I paid them a portion of the money that I owed them. And once I showed good faith that I paid some of it, we were able to negotiate my freedom by them taking it off my credit report. And I did that multiple times. I went through and I called the lenders or whoever that was a judgment. You know, bankruptcy is bankruptcy. That's 9 years, 9 months. That's not coming off anytime soon. But judgments, you can play with. People that have reported derogatory on your credit, it was paid and you paid it late, but you've had it on there for 7 years, 6 years, 5 years. Some of those don't stay on that long. Those are 7 years. So derogatory credit, 6 years, 9 months. Judgments and liens, 9 years, 9 months, right? But what I did was the ones that I paid didn't pay well. I called them and said, look, it's been on there for 6 years. It's due to come off. Can you give a brother a break? And they did. Right? But it took me time. And after they start to fall off, all this old junk fell off. I was able in 2012, I was able to buy a car on my own, in my own name, with my own credit. 2012. Filed bankruptcy and all and foreclosure 2007. Well, BK was in 2005. House we lost in 7, right? Sold it in 2007. 5 years it took me to get my own car in my own name. 5 years. That's an eternity. No, it's not. But you can do it. And in that 5 years, I spent time just picking up the phone, calling a creditor, running my credit on free credit. I subscribed to one of the credit, Experian. I paid the membership fee. I was getting my 3 credit reports every single month, seeing what was on there, seeing what was falling off, seeing what I could manage. And I was able to systematically pick them off one by one. And the ones that I felt that were not even mine, I disputed. And guess what? They fell off too. Why? Because I had to deal with the boogeyman. When your credit's jacked up and you've gone through this, how do you get out from under the devastation? You deal with the problem. I had to deal with the problem. So I dealt with it head on. Now, I'm proud to say, extremely proud to say, that my credit scores are where I could get whatever I want, when I want, how I want. But I don't abuse it. I don't abuse it. Because I know what it is to lose it, and I know what it is to get it back. But if use free resources like freecreditscore.com, pull your credit report. If you can afford it, Experian is if you're in New York, Experian is the one that most lenders use here in New York. But you got TransUnion, right? And you've got Experian, and for some reason I can't remember the third one. But there's 3, right? Most lenders take the average of the 3, and then they figure out where they're gonna, where they're gonna place you. But can you get a credit card after you file bankruptcy? Yeah, if you want to have a secured credit card. But why in the world do you want one when you just burn through that debt? Now, listen, there are legitimate reasons when you need protection, when you've got millions of dollars in medical bills that you're never going to pay. I understand some things. But if it was just abuse, and then you go back and you want to start all over again, it's insanity. I'll share this. As I told you, I worked for household finance for my early part of my career in the 80s. We used to have people come in and do a credit consolidation loan, pay off all their credit cards. And then here's what they asked me. Can I go out and get a credit card tomorrow? I go, no. We just bailed you out. You just took a home equity loan to borrow against to pay off your debt, and then you want another credit card? Are you insane? Yes, they are. If you can't afford to pay it back in 30 days, don't charge it. And if you don't have to charge it, use your debit card. And my wife really put this message in my proverbial head because it really came to roost here. You need an emergency fund of at least $1,000 because stuff happens. You need something for a rainy day. Oh, Pastor, I can't do it. Yes, you can. Stop going to Dunkin' Donuts. Stop going and paying $5 at Starbucks. I guarantee you, if you cut out some things, you can put $1,000 away. Now, it might take you longer than some, but the sheer fact that you've done it is a great accomplishment. Again, go to Dave Ramsey's site. There are a lot of people that offer his course. You could buy it. It's the greatest investment that you'll ever make in getting beyond the devastation. Dave is not paying me one bloody nickel, but I'm telling you, I've seen the fruit of it. I've seen the results of it. If you want to get beyond the devastation, Dave Ramsey, check him out. I'm not asking you to believe in his politics. It's not about his politics. It's about his methods. It works. We've got success stories after success stories after success stories that have come out of it. So let's finish this up. I filed bankruptcy. How do I get out? Well, once you get back out, it's really, you got to get back on the horse. As soon as the chapter 7 is dismissed and it's gone through its final stages, it could take a long 8 to 12 weeks, however long it might take. Once it's done, pull your credit report. Start working on it right away. All the judgments and all that stuff, whatever you can work on, work on. Plead your case to the lender. They're not as bad as you think they are, right? Some of them, if you've burnt them, they're not going to, if you burnt them, they're not as apt to say, hey, we're going to let you go. No, they're not. But if in some cases where you've had a judgment or lien and you've paid it, or you've paid a portion of it, or you've settled it, you'd be surprised what they're willing to do. Can you buy a house? Yeah, 3 to 4 years later. Can you get a car? If you want to pay 25% or 15% or 10%. You better have a down payment or else you're going to be paying through the roof. Please, stop going in to buy a car with $1,000 down. Stop it. And then you wonder why your payments are $600 a month and you're working 5 jobs. Stop the madness. I used to see it all the time. And the dealer doesn't care. He'll get you a loan if you're willing to pay the piper. You know why dealers are millionaires? Because some people help pay for their private jets because you're willing to pay the piper. And there's some great dealers out there. I've worked with, honestly, I've worked with a lot of great men that own dealerships. But we need help. You need help. I'm just trying to give you some help. So, if you found any of this interesting and you want some more information, here, I'm going to give you an email. info@ftbeacon.org. info@ftbeacon.org. Send us an email. We'd like to hear from you. So, I appreciate you guys tuning in to Beyond the Devastation today. And we are grateful for you to spend your quality time here today. And we look forward to seeing you next week when we have a special guest coming up that's going to talk about beyond incarceration. Have a great day.